Right, so I've actually never used an iPad before, and this is really surprising to you guys, but yeah, no. This is my first ever time using an iPad, and I'm surprised, because this iPad 11th gen in 2025 has so many great features, and so many reasons why I should use it. I'm going to go into in this video. Whether that's because of the amazing screen, the great performance, and iPadOS 26 just being released. And please note, this video does not include iPadOS 26, as I personally prefer iPadOS 18, but I'll have future videos on iPadOS 26 and this iPad being the perfect combination, hopefully, very soon. But no, this iPad has so many great features, of course, with its keyboard, Apple Pencil, and accessories. This is a really good package, but it's not for everyone, so who is it for, and should you buy the iPad 11th gen in 2025? Let's get straight into it. So let's start off with the design of the iPad. Well, this iPad has a great design. It comes in silver, pink, blue and yellow, and the capacity is 128, 256 or 512 gigabytes. The screen is 10 by 7 inches, 10 inches on the longer side, 7 inches on the short side, and weighs about 500 grams, which actually, to be fair, in real life usage doesn't actually mean that much. Of course, we're using USB-C with the iPad here, and yeah, just generally speaking, general things was not a review. This iPad just is great. Look, the screen is really good. It's got a lot of good tech, including LED backlit multi-touch display, 264 pixels per inch, which on an iPad is really good. For example, computers like this have 400 plus pixels per inch, but of course it's an iPad, and that's very different. 500 nits brightness. I was hoping for a bit more brightness with the display, but for watching movies, etc, this display will be plenty fine. But no, generally speaking, the display specs and everything is great. It supports Apple Pencil, of course, and has true tone Retina display, which is always great. USB-C obviously with the iPad, which is really good, and of course a slightly older compared to the new chips, but still a really good well-performing chip, being the A16 5-core CPU, 4-core GPU, and 16-core neural engine chip, which works well on a day-to-day basis. In terms of actual user experience, this iPad is really nice, because I really like how well it's great to use. Because of all the combined said performance specs, it seems that this iPad works great on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to delve too deep into performance and leave that for my review, but I'm really proud to say that this iPad works really well on an everyday basis, and there's no problems with the iPad. Of course, using an external keyboard means that this iPad properly becomes a computer, and this is great to use. Now, I do love using this iPad in the computer setup. I do note-taking for my film school, as well as loads of other miscellaneous things that I need to do, more for example description stuff with my iPad, and it's really great to use this as a keyboard on a day-to-day basis. I just have to buy a cheap Apple Pencil online, but as far as I'm concerned, it works as it should, and it does a great job. And yeah, no, generally speaking, I think that this iPad in 2025 is the go-to to anyone buying a new iPad. You should not go anywhere else, because this iPad is elite. Now, this obviously, as mentioned before, has a good screen. Now, it's more going to be talking about in this video how this iPad is like to use, what is it like to use on a day-to-day basis, and generally speaking, it's fine. 500 nits, whilst it might seem that it's not that great, like on an iPad, it works really well. I was really surprised that 500 nits. Look, iPads are quite big devices, right? So it's not something you're going to take outside with you on a day-to-day basis. On some occasions, you might take this outside, and of course, this works really well on when you're outside. But of course, just keep in mind that Apple are probably going to update this in the new version with 600 or 700 nits of brightness, as I think they probably addressed this or have addressed this already in terms of the next iPad. And yeah, this iPad is like a mini computer. This is not an iPad mini or an iPad Air, but no, generally speaking, these iPads on a day-to-day basis just work great. And yeah, you should definitely try and get one of these if you can as soon as possible, because you'll be surprised. Look, it's really hard to explain, but when I first used an iPad, I was pretty much reminded of a MacBook, and I'm not surprised, because the MacBook and iPads have so much in common. We have M1 MacBooks or M1 or iPads with the M1 chip and other chips in it, and of course with the True Tone display, watching movies like this great movie over here being Top Gun Maverick is great. With a movie like this, we know with Dolby Atmos support and all that stuff, when you're wearing external headphones, i.e. probably AirPods, because I mean you've got an iPad, so you're probably been wearing AirPods, there's a really good experience, and that's really important. The ecosystem, my apologies, is really important with this iPad, because the more iPad-like products you have, i.e. an iPhone, perhaps Apple Watch and AirPods, the better your experience will be. So just keep that in mind, and keep in mind how much you'll probably spend if you get this iPad, because you'll eventually be drawn to other features locked behind an ecosystem. And of course, an iPad is an iPad without an Apple Pencil, and yeah, Apple Pencil support, even though this specific Apple Pencil is the cheap one I found on Amazon, so it's not exactly an Apple Pencil, is it? No, but what I'm trying to say is that you can use an Apple Pencil really well with this iPad, and support for external displays and using this as an external display is great. I haven't tested it out with my MacBook yet, but of course in my review, I actually have iPadOS 26, which, just want to say as a first impression, I do prefer like the experience on iPadOS 20 or iOS 26 I should say on an iPhone, because it just seems to flow better and it's a lot more useful. But no, on a day-to-day basis, I think you're going to enjoy this experience no matter what. But I would definitely keep in mind that iPadOS 26 might not be as, it's hard. I know this is a hot take, but iPadOS 26 obviously is a great software, and I have nothing against the software itself. Just to note that iPadOS 26 might not be as great as on an iPhone. That's an example. Or a better way of saying the same thing is that I definitely prefer iPadOS 18, and it works great on a day-to-day basis. And of course, so in an actual user experience scenario, is this iPad worth buying in 2025? Yes, and probably yes. I think this iPad has so many great features. The screen is so good that I can watch movies. I can be happy watching great movies on this and watching YouTube videos like this M1 MacBook Air review. If you want to watch that, click the link in the description. But no, I can be happy using this computer. I could call this a computer because of obviously the setup we can get with this iPad. I'd be happy to use it on a day-to-day basis, and generally speaking, there's nothing holding it back. This iPad, of course, is a good iPad and has so many great features, comes in great colors, and I haven't tested out the cameras too much, but just to be clear, it's got 5G compatibility with an iPad, which is great, sub 6 GHz, which is always good, and Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.3, which is always good. And just to summarize, Touch ID with this iPad is great. Face ID I was kind of hoping for, but that's not that important anyway, not on an iPad. And yeah, so if you want to buy this iPad, how much are you actually going to be spending? The question is, it depends on the storage size. So if I was going to get this iPad, so it's silver 128GB Wi-Fi instead of iPad, it would cost about £500, which actually is really nice. You can actually add engraving to your iPad as well, which is obviously for design purposes, but no, I'm really happy with how this iPad is designed, how this iPad is to use. The fact that it's got 5G, Wi-Fi 6 and so many good future-proof features in 2025 is putting this at a really good perspective. Finally, the battery life. One of the most important things about an iPad, because you're going to be using this iPad for a long day on a day-to-day basis. Can it last all the time using an iPad? Most of the time, yes. I've used this at my film school for the whole days, on multiple days, and I've had to charge this after 2 days. So yeah, definitely keep in mind the battery life of the iPad is always good, and you should be really proud of that. And to summarize, yes, buy this iPad. It's got great features, a great screen, and overall seems like a great package. I've only used this iPad for about 2 to 3 weeks, so give me more time to review this, and stay tuned for more videos based on the iPad in general. I hope you guys found this video useful, and if you did, subscribe down below. Check out new videos based on this iPad on YouTube if you want more information, but hopefully this video gave you what you need to think about buying an iPad and whether you should probably buy it. That's wait for my review. But anyway guys, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace out.